Like to call the Iberia Parish Council meeting to order. The date is November 15th, 2017. Time is 6 p.m. If everyone would rise for the prayer and the pledge. Mr. Mathurin.
We'll lead off with the Lord's Prayer.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Amen.
Mr. Goshenstein?
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Tommy Collins.
Here.
Michael Landry. Tommy Landry. Lloyd Brown. Warren Goshenstein.
Here.
Natalie Broussard.
Here.
Paul Landry. Here. Ricky Gonsalas.
Here.
Joel Dugas.
Here.
Eugene Olivier.
Here.
Brian Napier.
Here.
Berwick Francis.
Here.
Marty Trahan.
Here.
Chad Montreal.
Here.
We have a quorum. Next, we'll go into public comments. I need a motion. I have a motion by Mr. Gonsalves. I have a second by Mr. Olivier. Roll call. That motion carries. We did not receive any request for any comments regarding non-agenda items, so we'll move on to the request for agenda items. The first request we have is Mr. Robbie LeBlanc to speak regarding summary number 214. Just want to remind everybody.
Sorry about that.
You okay, Mr. LeBlanc?
Oh yeah.
Just want to remind
I'll check on
everybody
Lloyd's,
that it's 3 minutes in public
It's not
comment.
gonna be that long. This trip on Lloyd's foot. You know, when you get this old. But anyway, I wanted to compliment you all on the defined interview process that you all conducted Monday night. It was very efficient and very on time. On behalf of my family and myself, I would really like to thank y'all for giving me an opportunity to interview for the position of registrar of voters. And at the end, for all the candidates, whoever here tonight, including myself, Godspeed, and whoever is selected, I hope and pray that they do a fantastic job in that position. So, and I mentioned some things during the interview process. I hope and pray that the same would be initiated towards that selectee, that they would implement those things. So thank you very much. Have a nice evening, and thanks again.
Mr. LeBlanc, thank you for submitting yourself and coming before us. I know it's not as easy to come before a panel of 14 people for an interview process. So thank you for volunteering to serve in Iberia Parish.
Well,
We
I was
appreciate
kind of
it.
like in the reverse, Madam Chairman, is that in my tenure on the other side of the aisle as a school board member for 28 years, I've went through interview processes for at least 5 superintendents. So, I know what the process is, but I just want to compliment you all, since it's been quite a while since you went through that particular process, but it was very efficient, and I compliment you all for it.
Thank you very
Yes,
much for
ma'am.
that. Next, we have Ms. Christy Blanchard, who wants to make a comment regarding the same agenda item.
Good evening. Just wanted to thank you for giving me the opportunity to come before you to interview. And Robbie said it all. It was a great interview process. And thanks. Thanks for letting me come forth.
And I'll say the same thing to you as well, Ms. Blanchard. Thank you very much for putting yourself out there and subjecting yourself to our process and be willing to serve for Iberia Parish.
Okay.
We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Next, we have Ms. Frankie Rito, who wants to comment regarding the same agenda item. Ms. Rito?
Good evening, council members. I just wanted to say, for the past 19 years, I served the citizens of Iberia Parish faithful and impartially, and I've held every position in the Registrar of Voters Office, from Administrative Coordinator, Confidential Assistant, Chief Deputy, and now the Interim Registrar. In Mrs. Adams' absences, I performed the duties and led the office for the past 3 years, and even now, in her retirement, I'm currently facilitating a special election in which I receive an overwhelming support from the public in regards to becoming the next registrar. I don't believe it's a question or if I could do the job. I've been doing the job. I consider myself to be hardworking, dedicated, humble, compassionate, loyal, and very dependable. With my experience, education, skills, I'm confident that I could be the excellent choice as the next registrar of voters. Thanks for your consideration.
Ms. Rito, I'll say the same thing to you as well. I appreciate you coming forward and participating in the interview process. I know that was a very challenging thing for you and nerve-wracking, and we thank you for volunteering to do that and your willingness to serve Iberia Parish.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, having no other requests for comments on agenda item, I have a motion to go back into regular session by Mr. Gauchessin, a second by Mr. Gonsalves. Roll call. Joe. That motion carries. Next, we'll move on to reports from the Finance and Administrative Action. The balance sheets for September 2017 are available upon request. The year-to-date 2017 budget report is also available upon request. Reports from the parish or other governmental agencies, there are none. Public Works reports, the Public Works Department report for closed work orders dated October 30th through November 3rd, 2017 was included in your packets. There is no special business. Council member announcements. Mr. Gauchessin?
Madam Chair, thank you very much. I'd just like to recognize Mr. Reshord. Last night I held a meeting in part of my district about some drainage issues that we had. Mr. Reshord, Mr. Sonia was there, members of the Public Works, Herman. I just want to give you a compliment on that. I think it was well receptive, that the people were glad that y'all came. And I think we'll look forward to many more of those. That's where it starts, at those round tables, and I think we definitely appreciated it. Thank you very much, Mr. Reshord.
Mr. Olivier?
Yes, I'd like to take this opportunity to let my fellow colleagues know that I participated at 1 o'clock on Tuesday, November the 14th, in the NACO Transportation Steering Committee Leadership Conference Call. I gave each of you a copy of the some outline of the conversations we had during that steering committee meeting. And if you have any questions, please let me know, and I can maybe answer those questions for you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olivier. Just let the record reflect that Mr. Michael Landry is now present. Mr. Gonsalves?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to announce that tomorrow night will be the 100th year of the Kiwanis Annual Pancake Supper, supporting the Boys and Girls Club of New Iberia, Sugarcane Festival, Children's Parade. So several events that they participate in, come out and support the Pancake Supper and enjoy some good food and hospitality. And also, like some of the candidates alluded to, please go vote November 18th. We have a big election, several key issues and candidates running. Go show your support for whatever you choose and go vote.
And tickets for the supper
Tickets,
can
I have
be-
tickets. If you need some, or call me. I do have some.
Mr. Napier?
Yes, I want to publicly give a shout out and thank you to Mr. Reshord, Mr. Herman Broussard, and all the Public Works for coming into District 11 the last couple weeks and doing some very much needed drainage work down in the Jacksontown area in Iberia, in Jeanerette, in Willowwood, and all the stuff y'all do for us. Shout out to you, Larry, and Herman as well, and all you guys at Public Works. Thank you so much for keeping our parish draining. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Having no more requests from council members, we'll move on to parish president announcements. Mr. Reshord, you have the floor.
I'm just going to make one announcement. On day before yesterday, we
we closed the deal on the Gosnell building, which you're gonna get a real nice email from me probably tomorrow. But this is actually for the general public. This is a building that we're gonna be using for public works. We've been working on it for a while, all of you are aware of it, but I just wanna make the general public aware that we did close the deal on Monday.
Thank you, Mr. Eastshore. I look forward to our progress with that and moving Public Works. That's going to be a great deal for the parish. Thank you for your leadership in getting that accomplished.
Thank you.
Moving on to consent agenda items for public hearing and adoption. Is there any items under the consent agenda that any council member wishes to remove from consent agenda? Hearing none, the items consist of the minutes of October 11th, 2017, the intergovernmental agreement for the GSI mapping, the memorandum of understanding with the City of West Monroe for emergency evacuation, cooperative endeavor agreements with Iberia Parish Government and Delcom, Generat, and Lorville. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda items. I have a motion by Mr. Brown, a second by Mr. Trahan. Any discussion? Mr. Brown, discussion? No. Mr. Trahan, discussion? Mr. Goshisam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to just compliment I know the people here tonight are not able to see, maybe they are on here, but just the preparation that the administration is doing as for us, you know, in the event of a disaster, making agreements for us to be able to house people and bring them there. You know, this is big. This is something that we need, and we know one day we'll have a disaster, hopefully no time soon, but we're having those preparations taking place between the municipalities and that government. And this is one of the first times that I've seen since I've been here that we've able to tear walls down between the parish governments and the municipality. So, gentlemen,
thank you.
This is big. I mean, and I want to applaud you guys for that, and applaud the cities and the municipalities that are taking part in this.
Thank you, Warren. We really appreciate it.
Roll call. Motion carries. Ordinances introduced for public hearing and adoption, there are none. Resolutions introduced for public hearing and adoption, summary number 199, introduced by the Fire Protection District Number 1. A resolution amending the 2017 Fire Protection District Number 1 fund budget in the amount of $69,500 for roof repairs to the Rhinella Fire Station, all to be funded from the fund balance previous year line items. I have a motion by Mr. Napier, a second by Mr. Trahan. Mr. Napier, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. As y'all know, this has come up quite a few times, and we are still trying to, I know the administration with Mr. Gesser is trying to do this thing right. And I talked to Mr. Gesser today, and there are some things that him and I talked about that I think still need to be ironed out. So I'm gonna ask, and I have a meeting with him next week, and probably with you, Scott, and maybe with Guy, you know, to where there's some things that, a lot of stuff on the inside need to be done, guys, and Natalie. But the roof is the issue. We don't think that probably that roof needs to be changed. So I'm gonna meet with y'all next week. So what I'm asking here tonight is that we table it one more time, and the next meeting, I promise you, we'll have something that we can bring here, and we can move forward and let the fire department move forward, because it's not just, they got a lot of things that need to be done, and part of this has been my fault. I'm gonna take, me and Mr. Gesser has had problems getting together, but I made a commitment to him that early next week, Thanksgiving week, that we're gonna look at that, and we'll start the ball rolling, and hopefully we'll have a packet together next meeting. So after discussion, I'd like to make a motion that we table it till the next meeting.
It's all right with with the second. No.
Mr. Trahan, did you have any other discussion?
No, I hear.
I got you, Mr. Brown. I'm going in the list. Mr.
Yeah,
Trahan?
go ahead.
Mr. Goshasown?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I would just urge the gentleman on his table, if he wouldn't set a date, just in case you foresee that you doesn't see it, because I'm gonna just say this continues to cost us every time we have to publicate it. All right, and I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but I mean, we in financial crunch. But if you do not schedule a date on it, you can always pull it off and they can put it onto the agenda. So just consider that if you will. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Gonsalas?
I just want to reiterate that if there's no significant hard timeline that we have to get this done, I, wouldn't put it back on the agenda with a date. That way y'all can move, make y'all discussion, present it back to us for a date, and we can make that decision. I know there's a lot of issues that you want to address, so, basically get it, unless there's a hard timeline, just let's wait and see when you get there's nothing pending that we have to get it done anytime soon, right? So just suggest that we just don't put a date on it. Have done?
Mr. Brown?
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing, but, Brian, are we still in the neighborhood of the 69,000, or we done went into the 100,000?
Well, it started that way. When it first came to us, the council, it started at that number. And then when I got involved, and look, for the public's information, I only got involved because that's what I do, not because I'm taking charge, for y'all. And I did it with the administration's approval, and all I'm trying to do is just give them information from my years of experience doing this type of work. To say that I think that number's just there. I think we can push that. My personal opinion, I wouldn't concentrate on that number. I think when we all get together next week, there's a lot of stuff on the inside that they already have numbers for. I'm almost sure. It's just there was things they wanted to retrofit the roof. They wanted to change the pitch of it, and that was going to be a big, enormous cost. A lot of the money coming out of here. So we looked at it once. And then we needed to look at it again because we really believe that the roof is in decent enough shape that we could do the other things and do some minor coating on the roof that would expand the life of it for now instead of changing it. Instead of spending all that money, Mr. Brown, changing it. And that's...
Right, so you say the push, would you mean push up or down?
Wait, say that again?
You said, but the 69, that was just something there.
As far as I know, I never came up with that number. The number when it came to the council the first time, if y'all remember, and that's why my flag raised up in my head was that 69,000 seemed like a lot just to change the roof.
Right.
And then that's when we found out that it was, when I met with Scott and him, that it wasn't just the roof. There's other things, and the roof really isn't the big. They got gutter problems. They got other problems. Don't think it's the roof. So, you just give us a little time, and I'd like to meet with y'all. But it's going to be not my decision. It's going to be y'all's to present it back to us. I think they were just using me as a expert witness.
Mr. Brown,
SME.
are you finished?
Yes.
So if I could, Madam Chair.
Yeah, and Mr. Napier, I just want to add, I appreciate your efforts, and I think that's what kind of makes the council work, is everybody kind of using what they bring to the table to move the parish forward and figure out what's in the best interest of the parish. So I appreciate your efforts in assisting the administration and trying to help the council get as much information as they need to make the right decision on this. You have the floor.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make a motion that we table it till the administration can get together with Mr. Gasser and myself, and we could they can come up with a new packet to come in before us, and we won't put no timeline on it.
And that's
Good,
okay with
Larry?
Mr. Trahan as the second?
Mark?
Okay with the second.
So the motion is to table it. Any discussion on the substitute motion? Roll call?
There you go.
That motion passes. Next, summary number 214, introduced by the clerk of the council, a resolution appointing one person to the position of the Iberia Parish Register of Voters to fill a vacancy created by the resignation of Registrar Ms. Mildred Adams, which became effective on October 31st, 2017. Applications of interest on file are from Andrea Babino Viator, Christy D. Blanchard, Constance Connie D. Larive, Robbie John LeBlanc, Jean E. Nora, Frankie H. Rito, and Stephen James Stansberry. Before we take a vote on that, I'd just like to, for the general public's information and for everyone who's not aware of how we did this, as Mr. LeBlanc pointed out, it's been quite some time since the council in Iberia Parish has had to interview and appoint anyone in this position in excess of 30 years. I think Ms. Adams has been in that office for about 40 years. As the chairman of the council, I got together with legal and the human resource department. We developed an application form, sent out that procedure. Then we scheduled a special meeting so that we could interview the individuals. We did give notice to the individuals that we may choose to go into executive session to conduct the interviews. It was felt that being that it was of a personal nature of interviewing people, that it would be wise to go into executive session to do that. Then at the end of last week, kind of dawned on us we have to schedule a process for the interviews. So I had a meeting with our human resource department, got a lot of information from them. As the chairman, I developed a list of questionnaires based on the advice that I got from the Human Resource Department. Their advice was that we have one set of questions that we asked every candidate so that every candidate got the same questions. It was consistent, it was efficient, it was fair. That was our goal of the evening, is to be as consistent and fair to everyone as possible. So with the information from legal and human resource department, I developed a questionnaire. That questionnaire was approved by the legal department. It was put into a format, and we did a format to basically assist the council members in keeping notes and being able to score and monitor to help them make their decisions. We did. To my knowledge, the only people who ever saw the questions prior to the interview process was Mr. Shealy, our legal counsel, and our clerk staff when she printed them and made the copies. They were not given to any council members ahead of time. No one saw them other than the three of us until they were put on our desk before Monday night. Monday night, we came in, went in to open the meeting. There was a motion to go in an executive session. It was a unanimous vote. I did not receive any complaints from any of the candidates that they did not want to go in executive session, nor did I receive any requests from any council members not to go in an executive session. We did ask the candidates to try and keep it to a limited time limit. After the question sessions, it was that the list that I came up with, we did open the floor to council members for them to ask any questions that they deemed appropriate to the candidates. There was no way that one person was going to decide all of the questions that each candidate were going to be asked. So the floor was open to the council members. There were 2 council members that came with planned questions, and they asked each candidate their questions that they wanted. There were a couple other council members that asked other candidates some questions based on the answers that they received. But every council member had the opportunity to ask whatever questions that they deemed appropriate. We actually interviewed 6 of the 7 candidates. I appreciate every candidate that made themselves available to come in for this interview process. You can about imagine standing at that podium, looking at this group facing you. That was a very intimidating and challenging prospect for them. And so I appreciate each one of them that came in in and put themselves for the interview process. The council members conducted themselves very professionally. We had no issues. We stayed on time. We did 6 interviews in about 2.5 hours. So I thought that was very efficient. Mr. LeBlanc, I thank you for noticing the efforts that we took to try and make it as fair and as efficient as possible. So I just wanted to let the general public know, because it wasn't a special meeting and it was not recorded, and you know, this is basically a lifetime position. It's not a position that we're taking lightly, and we did everything we could to try and make it as fair and get the council members informed as they could be before they had to make their vote. As we discussed at that meeting, the process that we're going to do tonight is a ballot voting like we do for any other appointments. After the first round of votes, if a candidate does not get 8 votes, then we're going to take the top 4 candidates that received votes, do a second round of voting. If we don't have 8 votes, then we're going to take the top 2 and keep voting till we get 8 votes. So make sure you don't get your blank one. Make sure you vote on your ballot that has your district number. I have a couple of requests for the floor. Thank you, Mr. Goshistan. Before the vote, Mr. Olivier.
Thank you, Natalie. Tonight we have the opportunity to do something most councils never get a chance to do. That's to fill a position for the voter registrar's office. And I know we all struggled with this decision. We did a lot of soul searching to come up with a conclusion tonight after the interview process on Monday. But I feel that we should place the best qualified person for this position. And I hope we all consider that. And we all look deep inside of us and make sure we do what's right tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olivier. Having no other requests for the floor, I need a motion. I have a motion by Mr. You don't want to do a motion for us, it's just a ballot vote?
I don't think we need a motion, huh?
Just a ballot vote. Okay, so I'll call for the first vote. If everyone could write down their vote and pass it down to the clerk, please. I did.
He sent 2 papers down, so he just laid one back.
All right, we have District 1, Frankie Rito. District 2, Frankie Rito. District 3, Christy Blanchard. District 4, Frankie Rito. District 5, Christy Blanchard. District 6, Christy Blanchard. District 7, Christy Blanchard. District 8, Christy Blanchard. District 9, Christy Blanchard. District 10, Frankie Rito. District 11, Christy Blanchard. District 12, Frankie Rito. District 13, Christy Blanchard. District 14, Christy Blanchard. The vote is 9-5. Congratulations, Ms. Blanchard. You've been appointed the next Register of Voters. Would you like to address the public, the council, or you want to pass at this time? You can go to the podium.
I want to thank y'all. I know it was a challenge. You know, I have to thank Miss Adams. She came get me 3 years ago. Well, 11 years ago. She gave me this opportunity. You know, she saw that I was qualified for the position. And I think I served the office well while I was there. I chose to leave 3 years ago. And I've been wanting to come back. The last 3 years have been really rough for me. Up and down on a roller coaster. So, Ms. Adams, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I want to thank Frankie, Sherelle, Gypsy. I look forward to working with you. And again, thank y'all, because it's been rough.
Christy, we look forward to having you as the Register of Voters. And Frankie, I just want to thank you as well for your willingness to serve Iberia Parish. All right, having no other items on the agenda, I will, I have a motion by Mr. Gonsalves and a second by Mr. Landry to adjourn. And we'll take a 10-minute recess before we start the committee meetings.